Reunion that seemed to last forever, but just in time to hold her mother's hand. Tien had to leave in tears. After many events, after days of painful memory loss, Tien finally met her biological mother again. However, the short-lived joy did not last long. Because of an unexpected decision, she had to leave with Jack. Starting the journey to find the missing memory. Heartbreak, will the memory return? Dizzy, will maternal love be enough to hold Tien's footsteps? Let's follow the emotional journey, where each frame is a wound, and maybe also a miracle waiting ahead. Tien officially received her biological mother after more than 20 years of separation, a reunion that seemed to only happen in dreams. Emotional tears, choked hugs, and a long silence between three people who were close by blood but separated for 2 decades. After so much pain and torment, now, Tien can finally sleep peacefully in the arms of her real family. Early that morning, when the sunlight was still shyly outside the window, Jack sat quietly working at a small wooden table in the corner of the living room. He was focusing on reviewing each of the pending contracts from the past. Tien was still sleeping soundly, her breathing steady, her face strangely peaceful. In a corner of the bed, the mother, the woman who had just found her little daughter again, was still sitting quietly. Her gentle eyes never leaving every line on Tien's face. She silently looked at her daughter, moved and full of affection. A moment later, she gently called her husband in, her voice whispering but unable to hide her happiness. "Honey, look at this. Now I just noticed that her nose is exactly like yours." He gently walked closer, squinting his eyes. "And her mouth is clearly like mine." She chuckled, her eyes sparkling as if she was looking back at the child from 20 years ago. After talking for a while, she stood up gently. "Let me go cook something. When the little girl wakes up she will have breakfast." The mother's figure gradually disappeared behind the kitchen, leaving the father holding a stack of papers and walking out to where Jack was working. He softly said, "These are the papers that I saw Tien holding when the car crashed. I kept them, now I'm returning them to you." Jack looked up, surprised, then nodded in thanks. He carefully received the documents. It was the important contract that he had been worried about losing. The uncle and nephew chatted for a while, mainly about Tien's health and mental recovery. Then the father smiled kindly. "Okay, I won't bother you anymore. You just keep working." Jack returned to his pile of papers, but his mind was on the bedroom, where Tien was still sleeping soundly. In the past few days, she had been much more stable. Her spirit was optimistic and her recovery was very positive. Thinking about that, Jack mused softly. Maybe it was time for him to ask his uncles for permission to bring Tien back. There, the living space was familiar and it was also more convenient for him to take care of her, at the same time. To solve the pending work, who knows, the old scenery, the familiar roads, would be the key to help Tien gradually remember the lost past. The gentle morning light filtered through the window, spreading a layer of soft gold on the wooden floor. The space was so quiet that one could hear the distant birds chirping and the gentle wind blowing through the areca trees in the front yard. Tien gently turned over. Her long eyelashes fluttered slightly, then slowly opened, her eyes hazy and lost as if she had just woken up from a long dream. She propped herself up with her hands and quietly got out of bed. Each step was slow and cautious, as if she herself was trying to find something that belonged to herself. When she reached the door, Tien suddenly stopped. On the porch, Jack was sitting and working. His eyes were intently looking at each page of documents, his eyebrows slightly furrowed because of the numbers and plans waiting to be resolved. Under the early morning sunlight, his figure was quiet and steady, like a support in the midst of a chaotic life. Tien did not call Jack. She quietly sat down on the porch, her hands clasped together unconsciously. The gentle wind blew past, making her hair flutter. She looked out at the yard in front of her, but her mind was empty. A vaguely familiar feeling made her heart flutter, but the more she tried to remember, the more confused she felt, as if all her memories were just scattered pieces drifting somewhere, unreachable. Jack accidentally turned around, caught her dreamy eyes. He stood up, walked slowly towards her, and sat down next to her. His gentle voice rang out. "Are you awake? How do you feel? Do you have a headache or are you dizzy?" Tien turned to look at him. Her eyes were somewhat guilty and sad. I can't remember who you are." "I can't remember?" Jack looked at her for a moment, then smiled slightly, without any blame or disappointment. It's okay. Take your time, no one is forcing you to remember right away. He paused for a moment, then continued seriously. I'm thinking about taking you home. The place where I lived since I was little. Familiar with every corner of the house. Every street, who knows, when I return there, everything will gradually come back to me. Tien was silent. Her face hesitated slightly. Jack saw that in her eyes. And he tilted his head slightly and asked, "Don't you believe me?" Tien pursed her lips. She didn't know if she believed it or not. She only knew that in front of her was a man who was always present every time she opened her eyes. A gentle, soft person, always patient with her even though she couldn't remember who he was. Jack looked deeply into her eyes, then softly said, "I know you don't remember anything, but trust me. Just that, okay?" He stood up, holding out his hand. Tien looked at that hand for a moment, then gently placed his hand in it. Jack gently pulled her up, leading her to the table on the porch, under the cool shade of the tree. In the early morning breeze, they sat down together. No need for too many words, just sitting next to each other like this is enough to somewhat narrow the gap between the present and the past. A moment later, Tien's parents also came out of the house and sat down at the table on the porch. Their faces still shone with happiness at being able to see their daughter sitting there, in the flesh, after more than 20 years apart. But that happiness was not yet complete when Jack spoke up. His voice gentle yet mature. "I would like to ask for permission to take Tien back to her hometown today. There, the familiar living space from her childhood may help her gradually recover her memory. It is also convenient for me to take care of her and take her for further examination." The grandparents paused for a second, looking at each other, their breaths caught in their chests. Even though they knew this day would come, hearing Jack say it, they still couldn't help but feel sad. She gently squeezed her husband's hand under the table. Her eyes read, if you think it's good for her, then take her." He spoke slowly, his voice choked. "I just hope you take good care of her. Carefully for us. After all, she had just woken up, and her spirit was still weak." Jack nodded. "Yes, I promise to take good care of Tien. When you have time, you too can come and visit us. When Tien is better, I will bring her home to visit often." Hearing that, the grandmother nodded slightly, tears silently falling without her knowing. She stood up and walked into the house. A moment later, she returned, packing the necessary things into a backpack for Tien, a few sets of clothes, an old scarf, and a small bottle of essential oil that she always kept with her. The atmosphere at the parting was quiet and sad. Tien sat there, her eyes wavering as she looked around, as if she felt that she was about to leave this place. Even though her mind was still empty, the grandmother approached, put the backpack in Jack's hands, and then hugged Tien tightly. She burst into tears. "My daughter, remember to take care of your health. I believe that one day you will remember everything. Even if you don't remember, you will always be my daughter." Tien said nothing. She just quietly leaned her head on her shoulder, her arms around her back. The first hug, also the hug that made her tremble with happiness mixed with tears. Jack carefully wrote down the home address, left it for his grandparents, then smiled. "When I have the chance, I will invite you two to my house. We really look forward to welcoming you too." He nodded, his eyes red but determined. "You just take care of her first. We are at ease now." Jack carried the luggage to the car. Tien was still hesitantly next to her mother. She led her to the car door, her hand still not letting go. Only when Jack opened the car door did she slowly let go. Then hugged Tien's face one last time, kissing her forehead. When the car rolled away, she stood there waving goodbye, tears streaming down, her mouth tightly pressed to hold back her sobs. The car's shadow gradually disappeared behind the areca trees in front of the gate, taking with it a part of her heart, the little daughter who had returned, then left again. On the way to take Tien home, Jack's car passed through the winding hill road, winding through the wild grass slopes, the jagged rocky mountains. The midday sunlight shone down, shining through the treetops, dappled the car windows. The wind blew from the mountain pass, carrying the smell of soil and rocks, of distant memories that had been buried. Suddenly, Jack slowed down and slowly stopped the car on the side of the road. In front of them, not far away, was a small mountain pass, where there was a cave hidden among the trees. Jack opened the car door, went around to the other side and gently helped Tien down. She was a bit surprised, looking up at this strange scene. "Where is this, honey?" she asked, her voice as light as the wind. Jack looked at the cave in front of him, his eyes quiet as if he was recalling the difficult early days. He said, slowly but full of emotion, "This is where I first met you. At that time, I was working, constructing this road. As for you, you live alone in that cave. I remember the first time I saw you, you were so miserable and lonely. I didn't know why you were there, nor what had happened to you. But at that time, I just wanted to help you." Tien nodded slightly, her eyes wide open looking towards the cave entrance as if an invisible string was pulling her closer. Under her feet, the grass was lush and green. The wind still blew gently through her long hair. She slowly walked forward, each step cautiously as if afraid of awakening some sleeping memory. Jack silently walked beside her, ready to support her at any moment. When she stood in front of the cave entrance, Tien suddenly stopped. Her eyes blinked slightly, then suddenly became confused. A vague image flashed through her mind, a torn blanket, a half-burnt log, and the sound of summer calling from outside the cliff. She frowned, raising her hand to cover her head. "Pain. My head hurts so much," she cried out softly, her hands clasping her temples as if someone was squeezing her brain. Jack panicked, immediately wrapped his arms around her shoulders, his voice worried. "Okay, it's okay. Don't try to force yourself to remember. I'll take you home, okay? Take it slow. There's no need to rush." He gently pulled her away from the cave, his eyes filled with anxiety. "I'm afraid if you try too hard, it will affect your health, both yours and the baby's." Tien leaned heavily on Jack's shoulder, her breathing still a bit rapid, her eyes still filled with panic but gradually calming down. She didn't say anything, just nodded slightly. Jack helped her back to the car. When the door closed, he glanced at the cave one more time through the rearview mirror, the place where it all started. Now, the memory journey has opened a small crack. But the most important thing, he knows, is to protect Tien, little by little, with love and patience.